Hi, everybody. I'm John Rindy from the Office of Career Education and Development. We are located at 108 Bailey Library, and you can always get appointments with us by calling 724-738-2028, 724-738-2028, or you can stop by 108 Bailey Library. Students, you can use your Handshake account, sru.edu/handshake, and schedule meetings that way. You can also use your Handshake app. Well, anyway, this is another course in the SEA Academy Digital Masterclass for Spring 2020, and today we're going to talk about personal statements. What the heck is a personal statement? Well, we see personal statements when people are applying to graduate school, whether it's for an MBA program or if you're applying to a PT or a PA program or to go to medical school. Most graduate programs of any sort, going to professional school or graduate school, are going to require that the applicant write a personal statement. How important is the personal statement? Well, in most cases, you're going to, if you talk to admissions people in graduate school, you will find that it is placed very, very high in the list, because it does show your writing style and your writing abilities and your ability to express yourself, but it also shows that you came from a good background and that you have a good idea of what you would like to do in the future without getting overly optimistic or getting ethereal about the whole idea or seeming too naive about it. Very important. Now, in some cases, of course, your grade point average, your standardized test scores, whether that's a GRE or an MCAT or a GMAT, sometimes those make a big difference. But you will find most schools put lower value on those standardized test scores. Those are more like hurdles they want you to jump over. Most schools do not make it easy to apply to grad school, because if they did, everybody would apply and they'd have a zillion packages to review, mostly of people who really had no intention of coming or succeeding. So they make it tougher to get into grad school. Now, really, grad school is about two things. One, it's about the money. They want to be very tough about who gets in, because they don't want you to drop out after a year, because then they got an empty seat sitting there that's going to move on without you, and that's very expensive. If a school loses 1, 2, 3 graduate students, that's big money they're losing, and they still have to pay that faculty member. They still got to keep the lights on. They still got to pay for all that curriculum and the buildings and the plant and the equipment for that university. They can't be losing students. So they are going to be very tough about getting into grad school. Number two, it's about the reputation. They want, in your application package, to be convinced that A, you're going to persist to graduation, you're going to hang around, and B, you're going to go on to make them proud so they can brag about you and raise money. Come on, folks, it's about the money. They don't want to lose money in a seat by admitting somebody who's not going to make it, and they want to make money from alumni who go on to do great things, or alumni that they can then brag about and raise money for. So it's really what it's about. You got to have a tough application package, good standardized test scores, great undergraduate GPA, and doggone it, you better have a good personal statement. So what I thought I would do for personal statement is just open up an article that I wrote a little while ago and just talk about some fine points. So let's go through this. Certainly you can read it for yourself. If you Google my name, John Rindy, R-I-N-D-Y, and LinkedIn, and just personal statement, this should come up and you can click on it and read it. But I thought I would go through and just show some things that I think are especially important. So this article is called Writing a Personal Statement for Grad School. Now, personal statements may be in the 300 to 3,000 word range. Rarely do we see them that long. 3,000 would be really rare. Most of the time, we are seeing things in the, let's say, 500 to 1,000 word range. If you're not sure how long it needs to be, and they don't tell you on their graduate admissions website, you need to get on the phone, call the graduate admissions person for that program and ask them, how long should the personal statement be? Two, should it be double-spaced? Because who the heck wants to read, let's say they have 100 applicants, who wants to read 100 single-spaced 5-page documents in Times New Roman 10-point? Not me. So ask them, what is the ideal? What is the ideal? Double-spaced, Times New Roman, 12-point? When in doubt, Times New Roman, double-spaced, 12-point font is going to be good. 1-inch margins all the way around. I find that the easiest to write statements do range in the 750 to 100 to 1,000 words. We can tell your story pretty well in that amount of time. If it is smaller than that, it gets tough. It gets tough. Now, if you're going to work with a career coach, here's how it's going to be. We're going to go through some of the questions that I'm about to pose to you. We're going to go through them. We're going to sit there and we're going to type some possible answers to these questions. Then we're going to write some transitions and make it into a full statement. Then you're going to take that and you're going to go somewhere else and you're going to work on it to make it your own. Then you're going to come back and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to read it through, and your professional career coach is going to make some recommendations. You're going to go through and make those changes, come back again. It's a very iterative, meaning repetitive and getting better as we go along. It's an iterative process. You should never sit down and say, I'm going to write my personal statement and be done with this. Then you're going to be done with it, all right. You're not going to get into grad school. Go and work with somebody who does a lot of these. Now, there are people in your life that are going to tell you, I'll help you with that. Ask them this question. Have you worked on over 100 personal statements? And have all of those people gotten into grad school? If the answer is no, then come over to Career, because we have worked on thousands of personal statements, and many of those people have gotten into grad school. So work with people who are experts on this, not people who dabble in it from time to time. All right. In essence, we're going to try to answer several questions as we go through this. Feel free to jot them down or consult the article later on. First of all, where did you come from, literally and figuratively? You know what's really interesting about a personal statement? It's very similar to answering that first question in a job interview. Tell me about yourself. We always teach that tell me about yourself has a past, a present, and a future aspect to it, and you will find that as we go through this, this is very much a past, present, and future. Where did you come from figuratively? Well, I came from a first-generation home, and this and that, without getting too personal. Literally, well, I'm from Gibsonia, Pennsylvania. And what in your history was the catalyst that sent you down the pathway to higher education? You know, in my family, my mom was a teacher. So, I mean, we were all going to college whether we wanted to or not. Believe me, I went way too soon. I became a great student later on. I should have waited a while. But anyway, be careful about sharing overly private information. Let me say, for example, I've helped people applying to become to get into Masters of Arts in Clinical Mental Health, and they might share how they had to seek counseling. Bad idea, really bad idea. Schools don't like to read that, not because you were mentally ill or had a mental health counseling practitioner who helped you, but because they see you were helped in a very specific way, and they don't want you to assume that all of your future clients can be helped in that same way. So don't talk about stuff like that. Number two, when did you get the idea to study what you did? Or maybe you didn't go to college to study that. Maybe you changed majors. Don't be afraid to share that. If you changed majors, that means you tried something and realized that's not for me, this would be better. That shows that you actually thought through the process and you discern the process. Don't discount that that's a bad thing. That is often a good thing, and it shows you made a solid choice on your career path. So to briefly describe the moment when you learned about the path of study that you would take, maybe who was involved and where were you learned about it. Once you really got maybe changed over to your major, or once you got going in your studies, paint a picture of showing how your classroom studies or your co-curricular work in clubs and organizations accelerated. In other words, what things did you do and how did you grow in your skills, knowledge, and abilities? Somewhere in there, we want to weave in what's called the aha moment. What was the aha moment where you said, holy mackerel, I have definitely chosen the right career path. I am definitely going to go on to be a fill in the blank. What was that moment? Who was involved? Where were you? Tell that story. You know, if somebody particularly encouraged you, what did they encourage you to do that makes you stand out as a graduate student? Does all of this now lead you? How does all of this now lead you to apply for a position in PT school, in an MBA program, and so on? Now, throughout your personal statement, we are going to try, and I say we, you should work with a career coach, we are going to try to weave throughout this document the top skills of successful graduate students, and those include curiosity, eagerness to learn, motivation, ability to take direction and critique, ability to engage in discourse without getting angry, ability to listen to divergent viewpoints without freaking out, maturity, fervor for the field, and so on. You can even talk about how your liberal arts courses, you know, your core courses help you become more of a well-rounded student. Now, you can't just say well-rounded because that doesn't mean anything. Unpackage why you are a better listener, why you are a better thinker, why you can apply critical thinking and critical problem solving. Now, this number eight only applies if you are going to a separate graduate program. Here's what I mean. Some of you people in PA, PT, medical school, vet school are going to be applying through a centralized application service. You're going to make one personal statement, and that's going to go to all the schools you want to apply to. So you can't say, with these next two, number 8 and number 9, you can't get too specific about that particular program. So for example, most schools want to know what you have in mind after grad school. Well, I want to be a pediatric physical therapist. That's why I'm applying to your program. You can't say that because you need a general personal statement when you're applying through a centralized application service. However, if you're applying to MBA programs, Masters of Arts in this, Masters of Science in that, well, then you're going to talk about what you have in mind after grad school. Please be realistic and practical. Please do not sound idealistic, visionary, or someone that's a dreamer or not based in reality. I hope to save the world and help children everywhere. Definitely not. No, more operational, slightly more practical than that. But don't be overly specific either. I hope to serve as a vice president of KPMG Corporation in Manhattan. See, that makes you sound very naive. It's good to have goals, and that can be a goal up here, but you could say, I hope to serve in C-level. That is corporate level, CEO, COO, CFO, C-level management in accounting or in finance. That's a little more general. Now, why are you applying specifically to this school? And obviously, this is more general here. This is not through centralized. You're not going to have this in centralized application personal statements. Why do you want to go to that school? Make it very centered on curriculum. Please don't ever apply to a grad school unless you have reviewed their curriculum, you understand the courses you're going to be taking, and you love that pathway so you can speak about it. Because in your interview, you are going to have to answer the question of why. Why this school and why now? All of you are going to be asked the question, why Duke and why now? Why California University of Pennsylvania? Why now? Why Slippery Rock and why now? So be prepared to answer those questions. Maybe they offer other opportunities like practicum, special focus areas, or international study. And also you want to talk about what professors interest you. You better have read the research of the professors in that department so that you can say, well, Dr. So-and-so studied this and I'm very interested in that, and she would make an excellent advisor. Otherwise, make sure you don't get too personal on things. And remember, you're making the case, yeah, it's about fit, but right, it's about the money. You want to convince folks that you're going to come, you are going to stay, and you are going to graduate, and you're going to go on to make them proud. In any case, that is the overview of personal statements. You can always make an appointment in career education and development. Thanks for listening to this digital master class. It's your future. Take charge.